Bippity boppity boop. Hey ho, I'm Rachel, this is Missy, and we're Miss Daisy Sewing, and today we're going to talk about Disneybounding. Now, for obvious reason, adults aren't allowed to dress up when they go to the Disney parks, and in the late sort of 2010s, a big thing kicked off called Disneybounding, where adults would dress up in outfits inspired by their favourite characters. No prizes for who this is. So whilst I have plenty of my own Disneybounds, having been doing this basically since COVID at this point, my husband wanted to join in the fun this time and do a villain Disneybound. We are going in October, we'll have been by the time this video drops, and with it being the Halloween celebrations, they have all the villains out. So he wants to have a sort of villain inspired Disneybound. Now, one of his favourite villains is Prince John from Robin Hood. The plan is going to be to make him sort of the blue coat with like the fur trim, and we're going to use the pirate pattern from the Hero's Closet. This book has some fantastic patterns in it, and the coat pattern I have probably used to death by this point. So the plan's going to be we're going to do a Prince John outfit, and we can't have a prince without a princess, but we'll talk about that later in the video. For now, let's just get onto the pattern pieces. So the plan for the Disneybound is to make this coat. So it's just going to be an open coat. I'm not going to worry about any buttons or anything. We're going to do that sort of fur lining on it. So I've got a nice white trim, and I might do like a little crown and put some Disney Mickey ears on it. So these are the pattern pieces. I already have marked on here the hip and knee, so we're going to cut them along the knee line this time round because we don't want it to be a full length coat. As you can see, these are actually ankle length, so we're just going to go for knee length here. Another thing to note with this sort of velour is that it has a grain, so it's rough that way but smooth this way. So all of my PCs are going to come down this way. So why Prince John? He who is quite arguably the most pathetic villain on the Disney roster. There's quite a few reasons I think we all love to hate Prince John. He's an absolute spoiled mummy's boy. He's petty and greedy and just wants gold for the sake of gold. He's pathetic, but he's still powerful. I mean, he is technically the King of England during this movie, but I think at the end of the day, he's more comedic than scary. He's quite a safe villain. He's completely inept, deliciously vain, and endlessly mockable. He's not terrifying, he's quite pitiful, and that's what makes him so fun. So this is a really nice coat pattern. The body's done in 6 parts. We've got the 2 back, 2 side, and the front. And, oh, hello my dear. The pockets go between the front and the side, sort of there-ish, on both sides. And the idea is that when it joins at the shoulder seam, that then all folds forward. You always want to start with the pockets. I like to lay the pieces side by side and then placing the opposites on top again, just to make sure that they are perfectly aligned on both sides. You then sew the pocket right side to the fabric, then it's getting all of those seams done, the backs, the sides, and then all together before doing those shoulders. There we go, that's the coat mostly assembled. The body up at least. We'll get some sleeves on, so hold on a second. There we go, that's the sleeves on. And can we just take a little moment here to admire how well that seam has joined up. These are probably the best sleeves I've done in a long time. They are my nemesis. But yeah, so the plan is going to be to basically rinse and repeat this whole thing with the lining. With the lining, I can do like an alternative, so this bit's like a different colour, which means that if I was to have this open like that as a sort of collar, it would contrast. But for this one, we're wanting it open. It's just a straight robe, kind of like this anyway, so I'm not worried about contrasting it or anything. So we'll get on with that blue lining the now, and then we'll come back and see how it's all looking. I feel like Disney's Robin Hood is a really underrated movie. It comes from a time when the studio was struggling, so they did recycle a lot of animation, but that aside, it's full of action, it's full of adventure, it's got some absolutely fantastic music, and the cast of animals are absolutely adorable. I don't think I'm the first person who will confess that their first crush was a fox. There we are, so that's the lining done. It'll give it a nice finish on the inside and stop those pockets here sort of flapping around, because if we open that one, they sort of flap about. They're not great, so that'll help stop them flapping around. I don't know why this blue is giving me like hospital scrub vibes, which I don't love, but with this nice shimmery blue, it's that more than makes up for it, I think. The next step is going to be attaching the lining to the coat. On this one, we attach basically down the front, around the bottom, up to the vent being this opening in the coat here. So we go down the front, around, up to the vent, down, around, back up to the front, and we leave the collar open because we do the sleeves through the collar, which I will explain when we get there. Not gonna lie, this coat got really heavy very quickly, which always makes me thankful for the heavy duty machine that I've got. We are, and the lining is attached. So, I still also need to do the collar. We'll do that after the sleeves. But really pleased with it so far. I absolutely love the colour of this blue fabric. Like, the camera doesn't pick up like the turquoisey tones of it. But yeah, it's turned out really nice. So we'll get onto those sleeves. For the sleeves, in this pattern we do it through the neck. And this is really weird seaming. So what we're going to do is basically take the sleeve, where's the sleeve? There we are. Up through the neck. So I sort of put them together because it makes this a little bit easier. And then we're going to put the sleeves cuff to cuff. There we are, get that out. So cuff to cuff. And what I'm doing is making sure that we've got the exact seams are going cuff to cuff and I'm not getting any twists. And then what we do is we go that one like yay, that one like yay, like so. Pretty good. And then we are going to sew around the edge of the cuff along here. So it's going to sew both the cuffs completely together like that, and then when you turn it back, go down through the neck and turn it back right sides out, it will actually have neatly stitched that cuff together. So it's quite a fun little trick. I don't do it very often just because it's a little bit fiddly, but with this coat I've done it that many times and I'm quite confident about doing this. So let's get these cuffs done and then it'll be the trim next. In hindsight, this is not the best angle, but you can see that I'm basically sealing those sleeves together by the cuff. There's a slightly better angle, you can see they're completely sealed together. And then we're dropping that sleeve back down into the gap between the lining and the main outside fabric. Here I'm pulling the sleeve to the right side and you can see that I've got a nice edge on that cuff. And then it's the all important twirling test. For the fur trim, I decided to machine the outside edge of the trim. Although it doesn't look the prettiest, I wanted a really strong seam on that.
After that, I then hand stitched down the outside of the trim. For the collar part, I did leave that open on the outside edge just to allow slightly better movement, and then the rest was just neatly tacked down, trying to keep it an invisible stitch.
Okay, so we're happy with Prince John, but every prince needs a princess. Well, did you think this was going to be for me? So, my plan for this one is that myself and my friends have the free fairies from Sleeping Beauties already as a Disneybound, and we wanted to revisit that. And I can't remember who, but one of my friends made a joke about the fact that Matt should be Aurora, and that we would do him in the half sort of pink and the half sort of blue, and that he could be the princess that day. And I will say this for my husband, he's game for anything, which is fantastic, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I've got here a sort of painter's overall, and the plan is going to be to cut it in half, and then one side we're going to make it pink, and the other we're going to make it blue.
Make it blue. Merryweather. Make it pink.
Where possible with this kind of thing, I do like to just buy PCs and sort of tailor them up and sort of make them into what I want. Whilst it's always fun building stuff from scratch, I don't want to fall into that rabbit hole of, why spend £80 on something when I can make it for 200? So yeah, we're just gonna use something that pre-exists, and we've got the die, and it's going to be a nice and quick and hopefully easy little Disneybound to sort of finish off for this trip.
The first step of this project was to split the dungarees into two, and that was just taking apart the seam all the way down the middle. I will say these are actually really well constructed dungarees, and this was a fight to get a lot of this stitching out, but I managed it with minimal damage, so I'm happy with that. I did have a look into the pink and blue scene and was absolutely delighted to discover that it's a meta-commentary on the real-life disagreement amongst the animators about the colour of what Aurora's dress should be. In the end, although she is actually in blue for the majority of runtime for the movie, you'll mostly see Aurora in pink, and that was so that she is immediately obvious and different from Cinderella, who is obviously iconically in blue. I was super nervous about the dye process. I double checked the measurements for adding the salt, got that water as hot as I could physically get it, and then added in the dye. As you can see, this stuff is hyper pigmented, and once I put in the wet garments, I was periodically just sort of moving them around to try and keep an even and consistent colour on them.
Look at the colour, guys. I'm super pleased with this. So there is some spots where the dye isn't consistent, and I've got that on sort of both parts, like on the knee here and things. But seeing as this is supposed to be that make it pink, make it blue scene, I actually really like it. I think it really adds to it. My next step is going to be sewing two pockets together, into halves of the pockets, these two. And then I'll install a new zip. Then it'll be sewing together the bib, and then attaching everything after that. So let's start with the pocket first.
For all of these edges, I just sort of trimmed down the roughness from the wash, and then used a really wide zigzag stitch, going back and forth a couple of times across that seam to keep it really strong. I then repeated that same process on the front bib of the dungarees, and once again I was just really taking my time and went back and forth a couple of times on this just to try and keep that as reinforced as I could get it. This was when it was all starting to come together and I could see what this bib was going to look like complete. And then it was on to assembly. I did the trousers part first. I'm not gonna lie, the fly did give me a little bit of bother, and then I attached the bib. I decided to put everything through the overlocker just to try and tidy up those seams and make it as strong and reinforced as possible. Quick fit check on my part, and guys, I am so pleased with how these came out. I think they read really well, but that's my opinion. Let's see how well received they are at the park. We had an absolutely fabulous time on our Disney holiday. The Prince John outfit was weirdly politically relevant. In France, they're currently striking due to proposed tax rises and have actually just had their third Prime Minister quit within a year, and he only lasted 26 days. We actually had a lot of people in the sort of general public, the other park guests, making jokes about raising taxes and Macron, and everybody, including like the characters, were all calling him king, which was absolutely hilarious. The crown was a fantastic prop piece. All of the characters loved engaging with it, and it resulted in this absolutely lovely magical moment where Matt was knighted by Mickey. The Aurora Disneybound went down really well with the characters, and my husband had so much fun getting to embrace his inner princess, to the point we did pick up a little cheap tiara to go with the outfit. We also got a shout out on the parade by the Free Fairies, which was tremendous fun. And I think the best encounter in this outfit was with Maleficent. Matt didn't get to have all of the fun. Long-time viewers might remember my Cruella Coat from November last year, and safe to say it is now officially Cruella approved. I do have some more Disneybound ideas for the future, but for now, I shall say goodbye and I will see you next time.